In the previous episode, this is me. I've flown away with some of my best mates to celebrate my stag do in New Orleans.
This is madness.
After a slightly bonkers first night, we took some time to enjoy the marine life of the Americas, both visually and gastronomically, before grabbing a few drinks at one of the oldest bars in the whole nation. The next morning found us in the Louisiana wetlands, where a fan boat would carry us deep into the heart of the swamp for an encounter with some very grouchy locals.
Oh, easy!
We also caught a ride across the Mississippi to Algiers Point, where we visited a true American British pub. Finally, we got a double dose of culture, checking out the Sculpture Garden at City Park and the Jazz at Preservation Hall, rounding off with New Orleans' most powerful cocktail and one big night out. But we're not done yet. Having finished so late the night before, nobody is up before lunchtime, so hangover food is on the menu.
Very necessary after a heavy night. Some chicken. Wasn't pizza. Is there pizza back there? Oh no, he's eaten it already.
Let's go.
No remorse.
The day is half over already, but we've got to do something. So we visit the Museum of Death. It's a place that's taken on a legendary status among Hugh and Will, who on their last visit to New Orleans credited its grisly exhibits with reigniting their desire for booze after a big night on the town. I can't pretend it's my favourite part of New Orleans, but if you want visions of death haunting your sleep, a look at the more gruesome displays will sort you right out.
So the Museum of Death was pretty strange. They had crime scene photos from the Manson murders at the Tate House. Didn't know they existed, so I've seen that now. Sort of strange, and you feel sort of disconnected from seeing all these bodies around the place. But anyway, off to a ghost tour now. Hopefully a bit more light-hearted, but we'll find out. So far, so terrifying. Ben, are you terrified for your life? Spooky.
He claimed to be a merchant.
So that one was apparently haunted by Ottoman Prince, whose claim to the throne was cruelly denied by his brother, and his brother sent assassins after him.
Then, just as we're being told about this top floor apartment and the two would-be vampires that lived inside, an authentic New Orleans jazz wedding starts to unfold just up the street. Our ghost tour continues past a restaurant whose ghoulish ex-owner can only be placated if a table with fine wine is laid for him every night.
What a dick.
We also see the mansion where Madame Lalaurie is said to have tortured her slaves. Her crimes were only revealed when a fire broke out in 1834 and fire marshals found a 70-year-old cook chained to a stove inside. She warned that those taken to the attic never came back, so a mob broke down the door and freed the mutilated souls trapped therein.
So that was the house of a woman who brutally mistreated her slaves, and Nicolas Cage brought it, and then he ran out of money. It's a curse, I tell you.
Ultimately, the tour is amusing, but most of the stories are nonsense. Particularly daft is the tale of the Ursuline Convent, the oldest building in the city. Apparently, vampires are locked in the attic, and our guide tells us that her boss once tried to get up there, but was turned away by a nun who said the stairs were unsafe. Our guide took this as evidence that the stories were true, but what's likelier, that a centuries-old building has dodgy stairs, or that it has a secret prison for vampires?
So that is the end of the ghost tour. Hugh, were you terrified? Mark?
For dinner, we're heading to Mother's Restaurant, which is famous for its po' boy sandwiches. An old story says po' boys got their name during the Great Depression, when they were given away to striking streetcar workers by a local cafe. The Martin brothers who owned the cafe were former streetcar workers themselves and called the strikers their poor boys, hence the name. Some say the original po' boy was filled with scraps of meat, while at Mother's they pay homage to the legend, serving sandwiches with beef debris, shavings from a roast that have fallen into the gravy below. My 30 special also includes some of their famous baked ham.
That was was the best sandwich I have ever had.
A soggy sandwich might not sound delicious, but this one was unmissable, putting Mother's Restaurant at number 2 in my top 3 New Orleans places to eat, and rounding off the day deliciously.
It's a bonny New Orleans morning. Today we are going on that thing.
That thing is the Natchez, one of only 2 paddle steamers left on the Mississippi, wearboarding for a jazz brunch and a little pleasure cruise down the river. With the exception of one very dainty espresso martini, it's Sazeracs all round.
Let's go get some food.
We help ourselves to some of the grub on offer, and I have my first encounter with something called grits.
And here we have bananas Foster.
Look, I know it's touristy and obvious, but these old paddle steamers are little pieces of history. This is the 9th ship to have borne the name Natchez. One of her predecessors, the 7th Natchez, was involved in the most famous steamboat race of all time, and the current vessel has been in several races herself.
Me and this mint julep, I'm gonna go check out the engine room.
Inside, there's another piece of steamboat history. The powerful engines are nearly 100 years old and bear the name of a different steamship, the vessel they were built for. The ship's bell, whistle and steering system also came from other steamers. The Natchez carries these crumbs of the past with her on every voyage.
One last cocktail up in the Texas bar before we pitch up. Whiskey old fashioned, Maker's Mark whiskey. Farewell to the Natchez.
We've got a rum distillery tour booked for the afternoon, but with time to kill, myself, Will and Hugh go for a drink.
So we stopped off at the carousel, had a beer there. Now we've got just a casual hand grenade to see us through the walk back to the hotel till we do our distillery tour. Cheers. So we are off now on this warm, humid New Orleans afternoon to check out the Old New Orleans Distillery. Sample, hopefully, some of the local produce. Here we go.
And after a taster of Gris-Gris, a spirit made with ginger and cayenne pepper, our tour begins with a boozy quiz. We are embarrassingly good at it.
So we're going to play a little game called Fun with Rum. It's rum trivia, get an answer right, get a free shot of rum. You take your shot, and then you wait up at the front for a few seconds, and then describe what you just tasted. This has 8 different spices. It has cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, allspice, ginger, cayenne pepper, chicory, and vanilla. See how many you can taste.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey!
Cheers.
Savour it, for God's sake.
Anything goes near my lips, you just go down, you know, alright?
Oh, we know.
The warehouse was originally used for storing cotton, and when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2003, it was swamped with 8 feet of water, destroying 15% of the stock and putting the distillery out of action for a year. Our guide is a good-natured, jovial chap and seems to particularly enjoy talking to Chris, who's a home brewer himself.
And distill it again. And then we don't separate it again.
Things wrap up with something called market research, which apparently means more rum.
Na zdrowie. Na zdrowie.
It's definitely a sugary finish to it, but it's very smooth.
Okay, next one.
Then, back in the French Quarter, it's a grab-and-go pizza dinner. And those awful t-shirts get one more outing.
Thank you, miss. We're going to check out Preservation Hall one last time. There's some football going on. This football game. A lot of places in the city are comparatively emptied out. And I think that's the reason why everybody is off watching this football game. You can't see me on this video because I'm totally invisible. This is Mark, he's also invisible. We're here in Preservation Hall, a couple of hurricanes, one more game. So that was our second visit to Preservation Hall during this visit to New Orleans. We're going to sign off here. We're going to head out once more, hit a couple of bars, have some drinks. Farewell for now, and I will see you bright and early tomorrow for the visit to Commander's Palace, which will hopefully be a nice way to round off the week. Toodaloo until then.
2, 3 by yourself. Sing us a song. Sing us a song tonight. And you got us feeling alright.
It's morning here in New Orleans, our last full day in the city. We've got the Commander's Palace, which I think is supposed to be the very best of New Orleans cuisine, booked for lunch.
But first of all, a little something to whet the appetite. One of the hottest hot sauces on earth.
It's 1.2 times hotter than military grade pepper spray. Over 6 million on the scale. Is that the one you're trying?
No, we're not trying.
Speak for yourself, Dean. There are men present. Myself, Will and Chris sign a waiver promising we won't sue, and then we face the heat.
Get my view guy, we all off.
How are we going, gentlemen?
It's a grower, not shower, so the heat will build for the first 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh, God.
But it should be gone within 10 to 15. You alright?
I'm not dead. Sticker. Survivor.
The hot sauce is called the end, but it's not over for my gut. I spend the whole ride to Commander's Palace with an uneasy feeling in my belly.
Shall we?
One of the great joys of lunch at Commander's Palace is that you can get a martini for just 25 cents with every main course purchased, up to a limit of 3 drinks per person.
Oh, you're very kind. Ding.
After an appetizer of garlic ciabatta, I go for turtle soup as my starter.
Finished with sherry.
Weirdly, the only reptiles I've ever eaten are turtle and alligator, and both of them were in New Orleans. Don't ask me why, but I thought the soup would be green. My main course is tornadoes of beef with whiskey smoked onions. It's not just good, it's great. You can tell how great it is by looking at my face right about now. Dessert is a Creole souffle served with a warm whiskey cream, and it's fantastic. But the real star of the show is shared by Ben and Mark and prepared right at the table. It's Bananas Foster.
Incredible, thank you so much.
And as a congratulations for my upcoming wedding, we're given a round of champagne-based shots.
What are we doing? We're shooting it or we're shooting it?
No, we're shooting
I think we
it.
should shoot it. Not the leaf, probably.
I'm gonna take the leaf out. No, leaf stays in.
Leaf? How can you not drink this?
Hey, Dean, leaf out.
Oh man. Yes,
That was great. That was truly one of the most remarkable eating experiences of my life. Turtle soup, the beef, so rich, and the souffle, you really taste the whiskey in that sauce, let me tell you. 3 martinis, 25 cents each, 75-cent cocktail bill in total.
This truly is one of the best restaurants I've ever eaten at. In fact, it might be the best. The food, the service, everything was world class. Commander's Palace takes first place on my list of must-eat places in New Orleans. We head across the road to Lafayette Cemetery and peer through the locked gate. The city's high water table means that bodies are buried above ground in tombs. Given the climate, the heat inside is such that within the space of a year, a body has been reduced to mere bones. These are then swept into an opening in the floor, leaving the tomb ready for the next occupant. Back in the French Quarter, a few of us take a stroll down to Jackson Square. In the centre stands a statue of Andrew Jackson himself, the 7th President of the US, who in 1815 led the States to victory against the British in the Battle of New Orleans. We've never forgiven him for it, and to this day the name Jackson is banned in the UK. This created some difficulty for Michael Jackson when he attempted a world tour in 1988. His visa application was refused with a handwritten note from the Queen saying, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin, I'll not let you in." That's how we say no.
This is the house where Tennessee Williams wrote A Streetcar Named Desire.
Okay, that's enough history. Time to eat.
So, we've had a little rest. Went to go and check out the Tennessee Williams house. Wandered around Jackson Square. Now we're going for what's reputed to be the best fried chicken in New Orleans, over at Willie Mays Scotch House.
None of the others will agree, but I can say that Willie Mays doesn't live up to the hype for me. The mash is great, but I feel like my chicken is more batter than bird. Everybody else seems to love theirs though, so maybe it was just bad luck.
So now we are off. Last night here in New Orleans, heading to Frenchman Street.
Frenchman Street is often touted as a less trashy version of Bourbon Street, so we're keeping it classy. Ben is flying home at daybreak and Mark won't be far behind him. The rest of us face a solid day of travel too, so we're out for a little live music and one last cheers.
Let's do one more. It is our last morning here in New Orleans. Ben has taken off early and we're about to bid adieu to Mark. But first we are going to try the famous muffaletta sandwich from Central Grocery.
We're there for opening time, but unfortunately there's a hold up in production and it's too late for Mark.
It's farewell to Mark.
4 of us share one of these monster sandwiches, and it's a great breakfast. It's one of few times in my life I enjoy the taste of olives. We're taking the morning to explore the National World War II Museum, a sprawling complex that's the largest war museum in America and might just be the largest in the world. It's too big to cover in the time we've got, but we'll give it a try. I'll admit to being a bit moved when I hear old Roosevelt talking about why America must help Britain.
The British people and their allies today are conducting an active war against this unholy alliance. Emphatically, we must get these weapons to them. They are putting up a fight which will live forever in the story of human gallantry. Their strength is growing. It is the strength of men and women who value their freedom more highly than they value their lives.
The section on the Pacific Theatre is particularly illuminating. It's a part of the war we learn a lot less about back home. Our hour of departure draws near, but there's still time for one last meal. A takeout from Père Antoine's near the hotel.
It's one last po' boy as a fond farewell.
The long journey home begins.
We'll see you guys at the airport.
I said at the start of this trip that you only get to do this once. Now, looking at the state of the world, I fear that's more true than I realised. But as the old cliche goes, this too shall pass. And eventually, we'll be free again, like vampires released from our attic prisons. Until then, I've got the memories.
Perfect edit. It had it all. Drama, intrigue, emotion, suspense, Oh, fuck!